Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3343. Today's date is 26th of February 2025. It's been almost like a night at 8:49 p.m. Okay, yeah. I'm actually recording Artifact way too early. Is because of that there are some sort of thing. I never really went to work out today. Yeah, I'm feel little bit of something not so cool. Why I didn't really went to the workout? Because today I masturbate. Yeah. Basically, is this thing na ki usually I masturbate during the night so that I would get kind of like a something decent amount of sleep. But what is actually happened na ki today I was like not able to control myself, and during the afternoon I just masturbate. Okay, yeah. Is it bad? Basically, it's not bad, but it's just like if you do this thing in very controlled way, then what's a control way? A control way means like that ki once in a week or twice in a week. That's it. Okay. Do not go more than that. Okay, yeah. So that is okay. Uh Usually is this thing कि I am actually bitterly controlled with my masturbation cycle. I'm trying to control, by the way. I'm not really fully control. Okay. I usually kind of like something happen twice in a day. Like I usually masturbate twice. Sorry, not twice in a day. Sorry, fuck. Twice in a week, not twice in a day. Sorry, twice in a week. All right, yeah. All right. That's why I never really went to workout. So yeah, I'm really fucked up. Okay. Yeah. Um. All right. What should I supposed to say? What exactly happened? Okay. Regarding about designs. Okay. Yeah, I did my design. Okay. Both the design I done it really good, really well. Execution, reels, and everything is actually done. Okay. Yeah. Now then. Um, Workout I haven't really went. So yeah, like there is nothing really kind of like a somebody say it's kind of like a somebody just a usual day, nothing really at all, just one kind of like a somebody specific thing that I did is a masturbate. So yeah, whatever. Let's just jump into the question. All right, yeah, let's go. Okay, question is, what does the human body reveal about the design of nature system? Oh, okay, that's a really deep question, by the way. It's not deep, but it's somewhat kind of like a really required high amount of intelligence to give the answer. Do I have that kind of like some intelligence? I don't know. I'm trying. Okay, yeah, let's try. Okay, yeah, first of all, where is this question came from? So a couple of days ago, I was actually watching the Demons of Leonardo. It's a web series. Okay, yeah. This web series is based on Leonardo da Vinci. If you don't really know who is that person, the person who uh, paint the world famous painting Mona Lisa. Okay, his name is Leonardo da Vinci, and he is not just a painter. He is like a master of multiple things. Like wow. While I was watching that particular show, I was bitterly influenced by the thought process of Leonardo, the way that he thinks. So I thought that ki, what if I started to think like him? So I went to the chat GPT and asked that ki, suggest me such a question so that I would think like Leonardo da Vinci. And this is one of those questions. The question says, what does the human body reveal about the nature system? Okay, yeah. So what exactly is this question? The question is somewhat something really like how does like the way that human body does. Okay, yeah. How does like a nature? It's a kind of like a something like a, it's a little bit difficult to understand, but it's not. Okay, yeah. What do you mean by it's difficult but not? Okay, um okay, I'm gonna tell you with example. Okay, yeah, so that I'm gonna okay. So we do some sort of work. Okay, yeah, regarding about any work that we do. Okay, yeah, walking, drawing, whatever it is. Okay, yeah, we do some sort of work. Okay, yeah. For that work we really require energy. Okay, as a human body we really require that much energy. We fulfill that energy with food. Okay, yeah, like we our body required energy and we fulfill that energy with by eating the food, like some sort of meat or some sort of vegetable or whatever it is. We eat food, then we get energy, then we do work. Okay, yeah. All right. Okay. So basically, after we ate the food, what exactly happened? After we ate the food, we get some sort of energy, and then there is a waste part. Waste kind of like a stuff is actually created inside our body, and we pass that thing from our exhaust system, from our stool, from our. Okay, yeah. So basically, it's a kind of like a assembly cycle. We are not putting kind of like a assembly food stored at food, nothing really at all. We just ate the food, we get the energy, and some of the waste material are released from our body. Okay, yeah. This is kind of like a Santali cycle. Okay, yeah. The same cycle can do every species on the planet. Not every species, but somewhat. Okay, yeah, I'm not kind of like a something sure about the every species, but almost like a 90% of species are kind of like a something follow the same path of getting the energy. Like a lion. Okay, yeah. Whatever the things that he required energy, he ate that meat, or he started doing hunting and kind of like a something get that particular food. Whatever the food that he get some energy, and rest of the food is actually released from his, okay, so our exhaust system. Okay, so every species is kind of like a doing the same. Birds, animals, snakes, reptiles, everything is actually doing the same thing. I think might be kind of like some little microorganism do the same thing, but I'm not really sure about that. Okay, yeah. Then plants. Okay, yeah. Plants is also kind of like a doing the same thing. What do you mean by that? Like a plant doesn't poop. Okay, that's a really good thing. Okay, yeah. Like basically this thing, yeah. Like plant doesn't poop, na. Like where is this kind of like a something? Okay, yeah. So it's a different thing. Okay, yeah, like basically we are the species. Okay, yeah, like basically as a human body, as an animal, as a bird. Okay, we are kind of like a something living organism, and we are kind of like a moving from one place to another place. As a plant is also kind of like a something living organism. Yeah, it's a living thing, but it does not move. Okay, yeah. And because of it does not move, it kind of like a something do some sort of like the cycle that I mentioned, like eating and kind of like exhausting things are kind of like a happen very differently. What do you mean by that? Okay, yeah. So if I'm gonna say living thing, there are two types of living thing. Okay, one type of living thing is a kind of like a something the thing, the kind of like a things that move from one place to another place. Okay, yeah. And there is a living thing which does not move from one place to another place. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, our metabolism kind of like a structure are kind of like a something same regarding about all those species who which are kind of like a move from one place to another place. But the living thing which does not move, their metabolism is kind of like a something develop something very different way. Okay, just take example as a plant. Okay, right now there is a mango tree in front of me. Okay, yeah. So mango tree doesn't really eat anything. Okay, it doesn't really poop anything. So how does it kind of like a gaining some sort of energy? Okay, yeah. So let me tell you one thing now. Ki we really required energy. Okay, so we ate food. What is actually food? The food for kind of like a something a meat or maybe vegetables. Okay, yeah. Meat is actually come from animal, or vegetable is actually came from plant. Okay, right. Now let's talk about the meat. Okay, yeah. So when I say I need energy, so I ate meat. Okay, yeah. So where is this meat is actually came from? That meat is actually came from some sort of animal. Okay, yeah. And where is this animal is actually came from? Like where is animal is actually grown is because of eating some sort of plants. Okay, eating some sort of plants. Like example is this thing that if I wanted to eat something meat, like a beef or kind of like a something a deer or kind of it's too much. Okay, I didn't really eat beef and things like that. Let's talk chicken. Okay, yeah, like basically this thing I like chicken. I like to eat meat, so I went to eat chicken. Okay, yeah. Chicken are this kind of like a some like chicken is actually grown by eating some sort of vegetable stuff, like some sort of seeds or whatever it is. Okay, yeah. So in the end, all those things are depends on vegetables. Okay, yeah. Even if we eat the meat is also kind of like a rely on some sort of vegetable or some sort of plants or stuff like that. Do you get it? Okay, yeah. So basically, is this saying all the species that really required to do some sort of work, and that work really required some sort of energy, all those energies actually came from plant, directly, indirectly. Yeah, all those energies actually came from the plant. Okay, yeah. Now let's talk about the plant. Okay, yeah. So basically, if you wanted to do some sort of work, we really required some sort of energy. That energy actually came from plant. You get it now, the relation between that, you get it. Okay, yeah. As also, I'm gonna tell you the information regarding about 80 to 90% approximation of correctness. Okay, I'm not really sure about the 20%, might be something really different. Okay, yeah, but almost like 80% might kind of like a something correct, because every species or every kind of like a living organism is kind of like a done something very differently. So I'm not kind of like a somebody very expert person to know all those species and everything, but still I'm gonna say that the information that I told you almost like a 70 to 80% right. Okay, yeah. Okay, now you get it. So basically the energy is actually came from plant. Okay, yeah. So where is this energy is actually like, how does plants are actually getting the energy? It's from sun. The plant is actually doing the photosynthesis. Okay, yeah. When the plant is, what is exactly photosynthesis? Okay, I'm not really sure about as well. So I just know the kind of like a something just upper details. I'm not really sure in details about how does photosynthesis actually happen. Basically this is at standard 5 you also kind of like a something have some sort of lesson at the science that ki when the sun is actually rise, the leaf of the plant is actually kind of like a something towards the sun, so that it could absorb the kind of like a something solar things. Okay, when this actually absorb, the photosynthesis actually happen, and when that photosynthesis actually happen, it creates some sort of sugar, and that sugar is kind of like a somebody creates some sort of minerals and everything, and that's why that plant is a kind of like a somebody grown. Okay, when that plant is actually grown, creates some sort of fruits and whatever it is, that kind of like a something food for the humans or animals. Okay, yeah. Or if any kind of like a leaf which is also kind of like a food for other animal like a goats or something like that. So it's kind of like a create the food chain cycle. Okay, yeah. So basically we all our species are interconnected to each other. Yeah, plants and everything is actually connected to each other. If the one thing is actually die, everything will gonna die. Okay, yeah. Now the question is that ki how does human body is a kind of like a something resonate with the nature system? Does it say right resonate? Like it says kind of like a reveal about the nature system or nature design. Okay, yeah. So as I mentioned about the metabolism cycle, okay, same thing actually happened with the kind of like every species. But plant, yeah, okay, I haven't really told about the plants. Okay, yeah. So when the photosynthesis actually happen, it gets some sort of energy. So basically is this thing, the food, the basically is this thing, we ate some sort of physical food like a meat or anything, but plant doesn't really eat a physical food. It ate radiation, like a sun radiation or solar kind of like a something is this thing. That plant ate that thing. Okay, just trying to giving you some sort of like a at a normal language so that you would understand. Okay, yeah. So basically plant ate that kind of like a some solar radiation to create the food in itself. Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing, we need a food, but plants are actually creating food in itself. Okay, yeah. And that food is kind of like a simply help us to another species. Do you get it? Okay, yeah. Now I'm gonna tell you is this thing that ki how this kind of like a something like a we kind of like something release some sort of material, we do some sort of poop and stuff like that, as also every animal does it. how does plant is actually doing the doing this stuff? Okay, yeah. Well, actually, plant is also doing the stuff too, but it kind of like a something very different. What do you mean by that? Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing na ki plants is actually creating food from themselves within itself. Okay, yeah. It doesn't really require any kind of like external food. No, it kind of like a create from create the food for themselves as also another species too. Okay, yeah. So basically, during this process, they are not actually creating any kind of like a some waste material. What do you mean by that? What is actually waste material? Like a way that we poop is a waste material, na? Okay, yeah. But what is actually waste material? Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing ki what is exactly energy? You have to ask this question to yourself. What is actually energy? Energy means some sort of kind of like a something like that, calories or stuff like that. Okay, yeah. Those are calories or those are kind of like a, some sort of minerals that we get from the food. Okay, yeah. And that like basically is this thing ki our body required minerals, and that minerals we get that mineral from that particular food and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. So fuck यार मैं point भूल गया यार. I was like ना like this topic is a kind of like something so fucked up that I just have to understand the stuff and stuff like that. Whatever. Okay, yeah. So what is exactly energy is that ki we need some sort of minerals, and we get that mineral from the food, and rest of the food is kind of like a became the waste material. Okay, yeah. But regarding about the plants or regarding about the mango trees in front of me is a kind of like a something creating a pure source of energy. Okay, yeah. It doesn't really have any kind of like a something waste material, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. Like basically the sun radiation, because of the sun radiation they are getting kind of like a some pure form of energy that doesn't really kind of like a have any kind of like a something of waste material, nothing really at all. So the plant doesn't really poop. But then you think then you think like that ki, then why this plant is kind of like a something like releasing the leaf and dead leaves, and like a why like basically you've seen that na? Like basically the plants is actually covered with a lot of kind of like a something fallen leaves and stuff like that. So what are those? Like basically what does this thing, plant has a kind of like a simply another metabolism things, okay, which is kind of like a very different than that. Okay, example is this thing that ki if I have multiple hands, okay, yeah, and if I didn't really require another hand, I will cut down that hand and kind of like a simply move forward. Okay, yeah. What exactly is this thing that the plant is kind of like a doing the same thing, because plant have kind of like a so many branches, so many leaves and so many things, and it could kind of like a simply grow in itself. Okay, yeah. So basically what is actually happened that ki when some sort of branch or some sort of kind of like a something leaves are not getting that much amount of food or not getting that much amount of minerals, the plants is kind of like a cut down that thing and it let it go. Okay, let it go. It's cut down its organ from its body and it's let it go. Okay, yeah. Plant could do that is because of that ki plant is kind of like a have tendency to grow in itself. Like basically if the one fruit is actually fallen or one leaves is actually fallen, it create another leaves or it create another things. But as a species or as an animal we can't do that. If we cut down our hand, we cannot grow itself, nothing really at all. So it's a kind of like a something very different thing. Okay, do you get it? Okay. So this is somewhat kind of like a something that ki human body is a kind of like a reveal about the nature system, something that probably. Okay, yeah. I am not really sure. Like I'm trying to understand this question, but this question is kind of like a something very fucked up my mind. Okay, like how does human body reveal about the design of nature system? So like consuming information, sorry, consuming the sugar, like basically the energy is means sugar or a kind of like a something it's a nature system na. Okay, yeah. But how does human bodies actually reveal the design of nature system? Okay. Okay, yeah. There is some sort of pointers are here. Okay, yeah. Efficiency and optimization. The body flows nature principle of minimum waste, maximum efficiency. The heart continue pump the blood with minimum energy, just like river naturally curves an efficient path of water flows. The lungs are fractal branching similar to trees to maximize the oxygen absorption with a minimum space. Oh, okay. Okay, what does it says? The body flows the nature principle of minimum waste and maximum efficiency. Okay, yeah, we get lot of efficiency with minimum waste. That is true. The heart is continually pump the blood with minimum energy, just like river. Dude, but no, okay, let me tell you one thing. Now, the river is actually flown because of kind of like a something the because of kind of like a something the height differences. Oh yeah, like basically what exactly happened na ki, like you have kind of like a something question that why does river is always flowing, is not flowing, is actually kind of like a something going from top to bottom. Okay, yeah, it's actually going from top to bottom. So that's why kind of like a assembly. Just take an example, na. Like basically, you kind of like a create the slope and put the kind of like assembly water. Water is kind of like assembly went from top to bottom. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like assembly is this thing happened. Okay, it's not going automatically. No, it's kind of like assembly following the gravity, and then gravity is actually pulling that water down. Okay, create kind of like a something at the sea level. Okay, so this is why most of the kind of like something like river are at the mountain, so that mountain are kind of like something high height. So kind of like a something the water actually flow from high height to lower height. Okay, and you get it now, it's actually happened. It's a gravity is actually interact, so that's why that kind of like a something flow is actually happened in our body. It's kind of like a something very different, because let me tell you one thing, our body is a kind of like a something vertical body, okay, which has a lot of veins. Okay, yeah, and lot of organs. Blood is kind of like a something providing oxygens to the every part of the organ, right? Yeah, but it won't do it by itself. Why? Because of that we the blood is kind of like a doing the against the gravity. Against means like that let me tell you one thing now, if I'm gonna say if I have a blood, if I don't really have any kind of like a something heart, then all those blood are kind of like a something accumulated at the bottom, means like at the leg. Okay, yeah, then rest of the organ will kind of like a something flow fail. Okay, yeah, so that's why we have a heart. That heart is kind of like a something pumping the blood from bottom to top. Okay, yeah, and it's actually going against the gravity. Okay, and river flow with the gravity. So it's a kind of like a something two different thing. How does it kind of like a something connect, I'm not really sure, but trust me, it's not revealing the human body probably, or maybe I'm not really sure. I'm going against the chat gpt, by the this answer is actually kind of like a recommended by the chat gpt, or maybe I am kind of like a somebody understanding this question with a very wrong way. Whatever, next point, adaptability and evolution. Okay, the body adapts in its environment just like ecosystem evolved to survive. That is true. That is definitely true. Is this thing that our body is kind of like a somebody adapt to kind of like a somebody some certain situation. Example, look at the people who actually live in Africa. Their skin is literally kind of like a little bit of black. Okay, the people who actually live in China or US or Europe, they have kind of like a something whitish skin tone. Okay, the people who actually live in India, they have kind of like a little bit of dark tone. Okay, where is kind of like a something the skin color is actually, why this kind of like a skin color is actually change, is because of that key exposure of the sun. Because Africa is kind of like a something where you get lot amount of sun, and when you get lot amount of sun, basically is this thing, it kind of like a create a pigment is actually happen. I'm not really sure about how much pigment and what kind of like some classification in that thing, but it kind of like a something added a pigment, so that pigment, that blackness is kind of like a something covering some sort of sunlight, or try to prevent the internal skin so that it would not get hampered and whatever it is. I'm not really sure why this actually happened, but still the exposure of the sun is a kind of like a differentiate the different kind of like a exposure of the sun kind of like a differentiate the skin color. Okay, yeah, do you get it? this is what kind of like something happen is because of our body is kind of like a meant to adapt the situation. Okay, yeah. If you still not understand, um you went to the gym, okay, yeah, and you are started doing push-up, intense workout every day, okay, yeah. So after a 6 months you have some sort of body, you build up some sort of biceps, abs, or whatever it is. It's not really that big, but somewhat somewhere you muscles you build up. The muscles is actually built up is because of you did gym, you lift some sort of weight, okay, yeah. Your body is kind of like a trying to adapt that particular thing, and when they are adapting things, then the body required some sort of muscles, and before that you don't really have a muscle, so body is actually creating a muscles by consuming the energy inside of you and things like that, and then you have that muscles. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is this thing: when you went to the any kind of like a some situation, your body is kind of like something adapting, but it takes time. It takes time. Okay, it does not kind of like something happen very instantly. Okay, like basically is this thing now, some people are kind of like a something meant to dive deep, and they are kind of like a something underwater for almost like a 1 2 3 4 5 minute, I don't know. Okay, yeah, it depends on how much they practice. If I wanted to do this thing, I won't be able to survive more than kind of like a minute or more than couple of seconds, because I'm gonna drown. So this is what kind of like a something is this thing that our body is meant to be adapt some sort of situation, but it takes time. It takes time. Okay, yeah. uh Example, the muscle strength and exercise bones, yeah, as I mentioned, which kind of like a stress and skin darkness and sunlight. Okay, yeah, like a same example that I told you. Okay, the immune system learn from the past infection. Oh yeah, that is really good thing, that's really good thing. Okay, yeah, let me tell you one thing, one other thing. Okay, so basically is this thing na ki I took the polio dose. Okay, yeah. If you are hearing this thing, that means you are not actually kind of like a get any kind of like a polio dose. Okay, what's a polio dose, by the way? Okay, so polio is a kind of like a something disease. Okay, that disease is kind of like a something happened in our ancestor. Okay, yeah. Because of deficiency of polio or deficiency of some sort of virus, I don't know, most of the people are getting some sort of handicap or something like that. Okay, yeah. So polio is a kind of like a something, a vaccination which kind of like a prevent that deficiency will not gonna happen. So basically the polio is kind of like a something given to us. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, I took the polio vaccination. Okay, till the age of maybe 5, yeah, 5 or maybe, yeah. But then after that, like this polio is kind of like a done means like that ki right now the kids are actually like born, they didn't really they doesn't really require any kind of like a some polio dose. Why? Because our gene or any kind of like some information is actually transferred from one generation to another generation, so that the vaccination, so that kind of like a somebody the fighting for that polio viruses, we have some sort of information in our DNA structure, and that DNA structure is kind of like a something passed through one generation to another generation. Then another generation means newborn baby doesn't really require any kind of like a something a polio dose. Okay, yeah. So it's kind of like a something they are kind of like a something just some kind of like a something just the information is passed through. I don't know how should I supposed to explain this thing, but it's a really cool thing. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna tell you another example. Okay, yeah. Which is kind of like something very mind blowing. In India, in near to the Andaman Nicobar Islands, there is a kind of like a something a small island called I'm not really sure. This kind of like a very small island, not really that much big. Okay, yeah. There are a couple of peoples are there. Okay, yeah. And most of people say these are kind of like a something very like these people are living from ages ago. Okay, yeah. They are not like a basically this island is actually covered by the water. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing na ki those people who are actually living, they are not getting that much kind of like a something the development. What do you mean by that? Okay, so basically is this thing the way that we kind of like wear the clothes, drive the car, have a bicycle or plane or whatever it is, they didn't really get any expose of that, nothing really at all. They didn't really have any mobile phone, they didn't really have anything, they don't really have any clothes, by the way. They are still living like basically thousands of years ago, the way the we are living, the they are living right now. Yeah, I'm saying right now. Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing na ki those people are kind of like a something. Why does people are kind of like a, why those people are not wanted to get upgraded or not wanted to, is because of that ki they build up some sort of thing. I'm not really sure what exactly is this thing happened with them, but it just think that ki the chief of that particular island who says that ki like if we kind of like try to communicate with the another people or another people from, yeah, so we will gonna infect or we will gonna kind of like simply die, so we have to prevent ourselves to stay away from those people. So basically that island is always kind of like somebody protected, and if someone is trying to get into that island, the people is actually kill those, like people actually kill that particular people, like they kill they don't want to kind of like somebody get into the island, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. And basically Indian government is also kind of like a somebody ban that particular area, that no one went to that particular sentinelist things, is because of for the safety or for that thing. Okay, yeah. Like a government don't really take over that thing, no nothing really at all. Like a government understand that ki this kind of like a somebody their island and they should supposed to be preserve that. We shouldn't supposed to be interfere with this thing. So basically the Indian government is actually creating some sort of barrier so that normal people won't let get inside that particular thing. If they went, then probably they will gonna die. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like a this is the real thing, by the way, a sentinelist or something like that near to the Andaman Nicobar Island. Okay, yeah. So let me tell you something, one of the greatest myth. It's not myth, by the way. Okay, yeah. Why those people are die? Okay, yeah. If they try to contact with normal people, like if I went to that particular island, and probably they won't let me die, they won't let me kind of like a kill. So probably I will kill them. Why? Because I am kind of like a covered with lot of infected bacteria, virus, and everything. What do you mean by that? Like, I am infected. I shower twice in a day. How would I supposed to be kind of like something infected? Okay, yeah. Okay, so what exactly is this thing? Okay, so till now, our entire human body is actually developed by the generation of information. What do you mean by generation information? Okay, right now we have a lot of disease, the cancer disease, the hepatitis, then malaria, then whatever. There are so many things. Okay, yeah. In early humans, they doesn't really have a cancer, they doesn't really have any AIDS, they doesn't really have anything at all. People just die, that's it. Okay, yeah. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing na ki our DNA structure is muted a lot through generation of generation. What is really muted? Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing na ki our human generation is a kind of like a something that ki like the same example that I told you, the vaccination. Okay, yeah. There is a one example that I told you which is actually happening almost like a 400 500 year ago, when I'm not really sure when this actually happened. There is a one guy who is actually doing the farming and kind of like a doing the some sort of kind of like a something milking the cow, something like that, milking the cow, like a taking off the milk from the cow. I'm not really sure what is the process that called. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, that person is kind of like infected by this thing, like he got some sort of rabies or whatever it is, he got some sort of thing. Then there is another guy who is a doctor, which is very like I'm not really sure this, like I forgot his name, he's like a really amazing person. Okay, yeah, he invented kind of like a somebody vaccine. Okay, yeah, that vaccine is kind of like a something very essential. If that it's at that time, it's not a vaccine, it's a kind of like a something just a cure. Okay, yeah. If that kind of like a something cure, what is exactly is this thing now? Okay, yeah, what is exactly the vaccination, what is, okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing, little bit of in brief to try to understand with very simple language. Okay, yeah. Okay, so if you are kind of like a something bit by the snake. Okay, yeah, if you are kind of like a something bit by the snake, how do you supposed to save you? Okay, how do I supposed to save you? Okay, yeah. One thing is that key at the precautionary thing is that key that the snake is actually bit you, it actually kind of like a have so much venom. That venom is kind of like a something infected your body, it kind of like a something hampered, might be you have to cut down your hand or whatever it is. Okay, yeah. Because the venom is kind of like a very crazy and it kind of like a something break down your, it's a venom, it's a poison, by the way. Okay, yeah. And it's really not good for them. Okay, yeah. How this actually happen is because of that ki venom have some sort of kind of like a something information. The virus, I'm talking about virus, bacteria, they are kind of like a something, um okay. Before this example, I'm going to tell you another example. Not example, I'm going to tell you another kind of like some information that it resonate with this thing. Okay, yeah. So in our body, we have kind of like a simply RBC, red blood capsules, white BC, white blood capsules. Okay, yeah. White blood capsules are mostly associated with the immune system. Okay, immune system which actually fight the kind of like a simply foreign, but foreign particle or for the foreign things. Okay, what exactly that immune system do? So what does immune system do is that ki when they are kind of like a something, something really kind of like a something enemy or foreign viruses who kind of like attack our body, then our immune system is activated and it kind of like a simply fight up. Okay, yeah. When this thing is actually happen, we feel very warm and we are actually fall sick. Yeah, like basically our body gets warm and it kind of like a somebody falls sick. Why? Because our immune system is kind of like a somebody working to kind of like a make your body as good as possible as you can. So basically for that particular process, the immune system and entire body is kind of like a creating some sort of dilemma that ki you shouldn't supposed to work, take a rest, and your body gets warm, so that all those energy are kind of like accumulated for the white blood capsules to the immune system, so that they would fight their foreign particles and stuff like that, so that they would cure that, so that immune system is actually cure by itself. So basically human body is actually meant to be cured by itself. Okay, yeah, it's actually meant to be cured by itself. We doesn't really require any kind of like some medicine to kind of like cure itself. Okay, yeah. So then why we took the medicine? Okay, I'm gonna tell you another that after that, but yeah. So do you get it? Okay. Now imagine the things regarding about the immune system. Immune system is a, imagine as a kind of like a somebody army. Okay, yeah, it's a kind of like a somebody army. Okay, yeah. And they have kind of like a somebody fighting. Okay, yeah. Fighting with the foreign particle, bacteria, virus, or whatever it is. Okay, yeah. So imagine that ki if our immune system is an army which have kind of like a something bow and arrow. Okay, a bow and arrow. Okay, just imagine a bow and arrow, and then foreign particles like a bacteria and virus, they have kind of like a something just full blown tank or whatever it is. Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing what actually happened? Obviously, that virus, that bacteria is kind of that foreign particles are kind of like a win in that particular thing. And if they win, then probably our body will kind of like a feel disease and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. So how does we kind of like a improve our immune system? Is kind of like a giving the information. What do you mean by that? Okay, yeah. So what should we supposed to do is that key, like a take the foreign particle, find out that key, like a, they have tanks and they have kind of like a something, whatever the armor things they have, we have to give that armor, we have to give that particular secret recipe to win the war to our immune system. Yeah, to our immune system, so that immune system is kind of like a upgrade themselves from bow and arrow to tanks and stuff like that. And when they upgrade themselves, when the foreign particle is actually attacked, then we are kind of like a somebody fight with those things. Okay, yeah. Do you get it? From this kind of like a somebody imaginary point of perspective, you understand that. Okay, somewhat you understand now. Okay, yeah. Now let's talk about the venom. Okay, yeah. So what is exactly happened that ki when you are bit by the snake and the venom is actually get inside your body, you are kind of like a feel very, it's a poison. Okay, yeah. So what kind of like a doctor does is kind of like a somebody giving you instant vaccination. It's not a vaccination, kind of like a somebody cure, but it's something that na ki what exactly happened, what does doctor do is that ki they kind of like a take the blood sample where that kind of like a somebody bitten, they find out that which venom is kind of like a insert in your body. Okay, yeah. Then what does doctor do is that ki find out that ki what the venom that they have, like a basically, let me tell you one thing na, they are kind of like a something venom to fight the venom with itself. It okay means like that na ki the doctor is actually giving some sort of medicine so that our immune system get a kind of like a something, the power of venom to fight the actual venom. Do you get it? Means like that, na ki, like the basically the venom means like that there is a poison is actually inside in your body which kind of like affecting your body so badly, is because of that ki venom have kind of like a some nuclear arsenal or stuff like that, which is kind of like a something far more better than tanks and stuff like that. That's why our immune system is not able to cure them or something like that. So what does doctor do is that ki doctor kind of like a take the nuclear arsenal from that venom and put it, give it to the our immune system, so that our immune system it fight with those actual venom and kind of like a fighting and kind of like a cure the body and stuff like that. I'm gonna tell you all those things just kind of like a something, just imagine point of perspective. Same thing happened but very scientific language. I'm just tell you regarding about just the way that kind of like something everyone could understand. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like assembly happened. Okay, so that's why we are kind of like assembly, the generation of vaccination have actually happened, so we are bitterly cured by them. Okay, so basically if my child is actually born doesn't really require any kind of like assembly polio vaccination, is because of that. Okay, I get polio vaccination when I was a child, so I have this information. That information is passed through DNA through my child, and that child is kind of like a something fully covered with all those information regarding about how do we supposed to fight with the polio viruses. They have kind of like information, they have kind of like a weapons and strategy to fight with the polio things, and they will not gonna affect that. Okay, yeah. Or chicken pox thing. Okay, like when I was a child I was kind of like a somebody suffering from the chicken pox. Okay, yeah, my child will not, because I took kind of like a somebody vaccine or something like that. So yeah, this is what happened. Now let's back to the sentence. If I went there, I am actually covering with lot of kind of like a bacteria and virus, is because of that I have generation of information of DNA structure is actually inside of me. I in my DNA I have entire information regarding about how do we supposed to fight with this virus and that virus and that virus. Okay, yeah. Now the Sentinelese people who are never really went to the island away in their entire generation of lifetime, nothing really at all, like basically thousands of years ago they are in that particular island for thousands of years. They never really went to the island, so they are never really affected by the normal humans. Okay, yeah. And basically they are never really interact, or they never really met means like reproduction, they never really happened with the normal human. So what exactly happened that their entire body doesn't really build up that kind of like a something information of the vaccination and stuff like that. Their body is still thousands of years ago, that we are kind of like a something unable to fight with the virus and stuff like that. This is body is exactly right there in that particular thing. They didn't really have any information. Their DNA structure is kind of like a something complete pure form of human, which is kind of like a something affected by the very tiny thing. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing: if I went there, okay, yeah, and if I get some sort of sweat, if I get just some sort of sweat, or kind of like I cut some sort of hand or whatever it is, and I it kind of like a get some sort of blood in there, and that like that blood is kind of like a something getting contact with those sentinel people, the people who actually from that island, they will gonna die because they didn't really have that much information, because my blood is actually covered with a lot of vaccination bacteria and virus, and my immune system is so strong, which kind of like a something they act as a poisonous to them, and it will kind of like a something, yeah, they will gonna die if I am gonna kind of like interact with those people, not me but you are kind of like interacting with those people. Those people will gonna die couple of days after or couple of months after. Okay, yeah. And even if you try to prevent them, our kind of like a some medicine is far more stronger to them. Like literally we take the paracetamol for if we are kind of like a feel little bit of warm, but if I give the simple paracetamol, which is kind of like a very simple medicine to kind of like a get, just it's a very simple medicine, dude. Okay, yeah. just paracetamol. If I gave that paracetamol to that sentinel, they will gonna die instantly, literally instantly, because for them this paracetamol is so powerful that they just can't accumulate it and they will gonna die. So that's why this is actually happened multiple times in their island. So that's why the chief of that particular island kind of like a create a law, something that no one will kind of like a something went to the went out that island, and basically no one is kind of like a entered another human into the island, nothing really at all. So this is what actually happened. Okay, yeah, it's a really great story, by the way. I just kind of like a watch a YouTube videos and I have this particular information, like which kind of like a feel really like really great. Okay, yeah. And still they are kind of like a some very pure form of blood, pure human form of blood. They are actually exist, by the way. Yeah, which is really good. Okay, yeah. Okay, I've been actually talking for this thing. Okay, I was kind of like a only I just didn't really understand like the question, but yeah. Okay, now third point. Okay, we mentioned the second point. Now third point. Interconnected system. Our body is a network of independent system, just like nature. Are we independent? Yeah, somewhat. Like yeah, in nervous system, circulatory digestive system work together as a plant and animal and fungi, and yeah, definitely is this thing. Our entire bodies actually work like independently, like every organ, every kind of like a things that actually depend on this thing, like our hearts, our lungs, everything is kind of like a depend on us. Okay, yeah, if the one organ fails, then probably entire body fail. Okay, yeah, example is this thing. If the lung didn't really kind of like a something soak up the oxygen, then probably how does oxygen actually get inside the heart? And if oxygen didn't really get the heart, then probably how does oxygen get into the another organ, another thing, then we will gonna die. So yeah, basically this thing, interconnected system, is actually a really crazy thing. Self-healing and regeneration, I already mentioned. Okay, yeah, like a nature build up self-repair mechanism to the ensure survival, like a WBC, the immune system, the skin generation after the cut and bones, which is also kind of like a part of this thing. Like if you have kind of like a, some sort of scars, or if you get kind of like a cut at somewhere, then our human body is kind of like a something try to fix that thing by itself. Okay, yeah, we doesn't really require any kind of some medicine and stuff like that. Then why do we take the medicine? Yeah, why do we really require some sort of medicine to fix our body? Well, it's a kind of like a simply human thoughts. Okay, yeah. What do you mean by that? Like, let me tell you one thing, na, ki, some people are kind of like it's a very off topic, by the way. Like, I shouldn't supposed to talk about that stuff. Okay, yeah, but why do we really require medicine? Yeah, just give this simple, short answer. It's because of that ki, let me tell you one thing, that ki, the we are not actually consuming that much minerals and information, or any kind of like a getting that mineral, which is a really essential thing. We are not consuming that much. What do you mean by that? We ate the food. No, we actually eating the junk food. Junk food doesn't really have iron, doesn't really have protein, doesn't really have fats, doesn't really have calories. If they have something, they didn't really have another thing. And basically, our human body really required a kind of like a so much amount of energy, so much amount of minerals and materials. Yeah, like iron and stuff like that. Like if you get iron from the palak, like a spinach. Okay, yeah, then another thing. Okay, so we like, yeah, if you are eating junk food, then probably you are kind of like a somebody suffering from all those things. And basically doctor is actually giving you medicine. No, they are not actually giving you medicine. They're actually giving you some sort of like a that mineral that your body required, that actually giving you from that particular medicine. So now another question I should supposed to be asked, that key, if our human body really required just a minerals, then why don't we kind of like a survive on medicine instead of food? Yeah, like basically medicine has a kind of like a something just a minerals, na, so which is really essential for them. So we're just giving you directly minerals. Why should we supposed to eat the food? That's a really good question. Well, let me tell you one thing, na, ki our human body is not kind of like a somebody build up that way. Okay, yeah. What do you mean by that? Like basically is this thing, our human body is meant to be eat food, not medicine. Medicine is a small tiny thing. Okay, and which is kind of like a which is kind of like a somebody giving you minerals and stuff like that. But still our human body are kind of like a adopt for eating a food, not medicine. Okay, yeah, like basically is this thing, we won't be able to meet, we won't be able to kind of like eat a medicine all the time, nothing really at all. And if we do that, probably we will gonna die. So basically is this thing na ki our, like basically is this thing, our human body are meant to be get, like I don't know, yeah, like like I'm not really sure. Yeah, probably I didn't really have that much information, I didn't really have that much, but still I think that na ki our human bodies are actually meant to be eat food, not the medicine. And if we consume medicine, it's not really good, and if we eat the food, then probably that food is kind of like a something best for our like entire metabolism system. So yeah, if we are kind of like a somebody suffering from kind of like a somebody disease, or kind of like a somebody is this thing at that particular situation, you won't be able to eat food in that particular situation. Doctor is actually giving you that prescription of that particular materials or minerals for your body, so that you would kind of like a body does do your work for that thing when you can't able to eat, okay, at the operation or at the pregnancy वगैरह somewhat. Okay, fifth point, intelligence and resource management. A body prioritizes energy resources that just like nature conserve resources. Definitely, our body really required kind of like a prioritized energy. During the starvation, body shows the metabolism burn for survival, like trees and shedding the seas and winter. Yeah, fractal and symmetrical pattern, our body exhibit the mathematical precision seen through nature. Example, DNA follows the double helix spiral as a mimicry of galaxy of formation and seashell, which is not really, yeah, like a somewhat na. Okay, yeah. So have you know DNA? Okay, yeah, DNA. Like a, basically, it's kind of like a somebody design that you never really forget. It's a kind of like a somebody spiral thing which have kind of like a some stuff that. So is that DNA the same, the structure that we actually seen on the television or somewhere in the books and somewhere, is it actually exist in our bodies? Well, it's a very very tiny thing. Okay, that DNA thing is a very tiny thing. It's kind of like something equivalent to the atom size of that. Okay, yeah. And yeah, it's a, the spiral thing that you are thinking is not a spiral thing, it's a kind of like a some string. Okay, yeah, it's a kind of like a very long string, and that string that have kind of like a some spiral shape, and that spiral shape has its own kind of like a something that stick whatever it is, and it has the information of you and your generation and everything. So yeah, this is what it is. Okay, yeah. And which is they are kind of like associate that shape with the galaxy. I don't know, because galaxy is a kind of like a something flat. It doesn't really have a string. DNA is a kind of like a base on string. It's not that flat. Yeah, but still, the balance between the sustainability and change. The body is a maintain the uh, homosatheus, adjusting to extend the condition and the verify. I'm not really sure what is at least this thing. But yeah, still this is kind of like a something very good thing regarding about how does human bodies reveal about the design of the nature system. Probably I try to explain this thing very much, but still this question is really fucked up. Okay, yeah, like I have to be kind of like a somebody push my brain to kind of like a think like that way, but still I wanted to think like Leonardo, then this is the way that I would think like Leonardo. Whatever, it felt really good. This is it, this then. Thank you.